Hi everyone, and welcome to today's ATTA Webinar. From Vamoos, do you need an app? 7 things to consider. The Vamoos app helps travel companies transform their clients' entire experience from the moment they book to after they return home. Today's presenter is Millie Morris, Marketing Manager at Vamoos. She helps travel companies see the value and commercial advantages of creating amazing experiences for their clients using technology. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. You will see a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please use this box to ask any questions instead of the chat box. We will go through the questions at the end of Millie's presentation. And please note that you will also receive a recorded version of this webinar by email as soon as the webinar is over. Millie, over to you for the presentation.
Thank you very much. So hello everyone. First of all, I hope you're all well today. Hope you all had a lovely bank holiday, and thank you so much for joining me on my webinar. Really appreciate that some of you might have signed up to it a couple of months ago and it's been postponed, so really great if some of you are back here today. So I just wanted to start off with a little about me. So as Sarah said, my name is Millie and I am the marketing manager at Vamoos. I've been part of the company for just over 2 years now, and I've absolutely loved every second of it. Obviously, this is a very strange time for the travel industry at the moment. So first of all, I do want to just say thank you, and I really appreciate you attending the webinar today, as I know people probably have a lot going on and a lot to deal with, but I really do hope that this gives you all something to think about while you might have some quieter time at the moment, and hopefully set you in good stead to hit the ground running when things pick back up and return to normal, which, fingers crossed, we all hope is very, very soon. So just a little bit of background about Vamoos and Atta. So we actually only became a member towards the end of last year. And on last count, we had about 27 Atta members that were current Vamoos clients, which is really cool. And if any of you have attended some Atta events or kind of bigger events like ITB, for example, you might see that Atta have been using the Vamoos app for that, which is really awesome. This is a screenshot from ITB this year, which unfortunately didn't happen. So you may recognize us. We've been to kind of a lot of the networking stuff, so I might have spoken to some of you before, which is also really great. So before we really get into the considerations, I just wanted to make a point of noting that the term travel app is really very broad. So they can range from all sorts, from transportation apps to reviewing apps to accommodation to finding people or things to do locally. So the purpose of today's webinar is to focus on a very specific type of travel app, which is all about how you can deliver digital experiences for your clients on a mobile device, and how you can use that technology not just to improve their experience during their trip, but also before and after as well. So what I've done is I've put together the 7 key considerations that companies such as yourselves should think about before you make the move to getting this particular kind of app. So let's get stuck into it with the first one. So consideration number 1, your digital consumer. So there might be quite a mix of you who are on the line today in terms of the different target audiences that you have. That being said, this is a screen grab that I've pulled from ATTA's 2018 Travel Trend Report, and it shows that on average, people were taking 3.4 holidays per year in 2018, both in the UK and abroad. And you can see that there's no real difference to the age of the traveller, which we can kind of get in normal times at least. You'd have the younger type people going on hen parties, overseas weddings, holidays with friends, and then you have family holidays. And then you have the older generation who are retired, they've got more time, they might have more disposable income. So there's a really big range of potential clients that you're all serving. There is a very common perception that the age of clients that would use an app is there's a very specific age of clients. And it's common to think of the baby boomer generation, so that's anyone aged between like 65 and 74, won't use a mobile device, and therefore, is an app really going to work for them? But this isn't really the case. Over the last couple of years, we've seen a rising trend of the older generation using smartphones and tablets. baby boomers are increasingly connected, with 4 out of 10 of them using a smartphone. And there's been a sharp rise in over 75 using tablets, and that's from 15% to around 27%. Nearly half of internet users in that age range of about 65 to 74 now have a social media profile. And among over 75s, the proportion with a profile has nearly doubled to 41%. I think this is of 2018. There's been a huge increase in tablet and smartphone usage among the older generation, and I'm sure a lot of you will have experienced this firsthand. Is when we buy our grandparents or kind of the older relatives in our family an iPad for Christmas so they can email and FaceTime and stay in touch. I know I've certainly done that, and I'm sure some of you will have experienced that too. So if you're sat there thinking that, okay, your clients are slightly older, that they might not be kind of the most suitable to use an app, then you're not necessarily correct there. And we all know that in terms of younger generations and people using smartphones or tablets, that they're very popular within other age ranges as well. So age isn't really a factor here. Consideration number 2, the personalisation of your holidays. So how bespoke do you want your trip to feel? If you're selling holidays that involve mostly one location or low levels of activity, a fly and flock holiday, if you will, I'd suggest that it's probably not worth getting yourself an app, because you're not going to put much in it. And it's probably just not worth the time or investment. But I'm sure not many of you on this webinar actually do that. If you do consider yourself to be kind of a tour operator, which creates really unforgettable or bespoke trips, and you're sending your clients to different accommodations and getting them to do different activities and have amazing experiences, then using an app can really help you take personalization to a whole new level. So these are some Vamoos screenshots which I pulled out just as some examples of how you can really personalize an app. So in this trio of images you can see on the left-hand side here, well, first of all, you can, well, you might be able to see, hopefully you can, that they're in different languages, so obviously based on your client's first language. But you can see kind of how different they feel based on the type of trip that your client is going on. So that Safari one, which will probably be most relevant to you, most of you at the beginning. But that has a really kind of exciting safari look and feel. You can also personalize the holiday name, the name of the people who's going. You've got a countdown to their actual leave date. You can also put your company logo at the top of that page to brand it. And you can see along the bottom that there are different icons which they can click on. So for example, if your client is going on a safari, you might want to pull out the most relevant information like the safari guide or a Big 5 checklist or the weather in the park. So that's all completely customizable. Then you've got your document section, and this can be as simple or as intricate as you like. So not only will you have, you know, everyone's tickets or boarding passes and stuff on there which are relevant to your client and their holiday group, but you could also add in Spotify playlists, reading lists, historical information about the place they're going to stay, really whatever you want. And you can do this based on the conversations that you're having with your clients and understanding them a bit better and what kind of level of detail and in fact what information they would most rather in there. And then on the final screenshot, we have got our what we call our points of interest list. And this is that you can create these completely based on the conversations that you've had with your clients, again, before they go. And you can put stuff in there that you know that they'll be interested in particularly. So these are just some really basic ways in which an app can help you create a really personalized experience for each of your clients. There are many more options. You can, you know, send notifications if it's their birthday while they're out there, or you can send them examples of activities that they can buy or book onto when they're out there as well, based on what they like. You've got so much knowledge about your clients and so much expertise on where you're sending them to, that you can create 2 completely different apps for 2 people who are going on the same holiday, which is really exciting. So if creating a really personalized experience is something that your company wants to do, then having an app is a really great way of doing this. And depending on what your company does specifically, the kinds of trips you provide and how personalized you want the app to be, there are different technologies, kind of off-the-shelf ones that are already available that will suit you. And I will come on to some of those in a little while. Consideration number 3, you know, how top of mind do you want to be for your client? So all of us want to be that company who is the first one to be remembered and mentioned when someone asks, you know, what great travel companies do you know, or who should I book my holiday through this year? It's no surprise that big brands invest loads in promotion. So companies like Nike and Rolex sponsoring big sporting events that will get their brand in front of millions of people. McDonald's, something I haven't had in a very long time, sadly, but is a really great example of this. So they're the largest fast food chain in the world. Everyone knows who they are, what they offer, but they continue to spend millions and millions of dollars every year on advertising and promoting their brand because they want to be the first thing that you think of when you realize that you're hungry. And I often do, I must say. The reality is, you know, if someone asks you to name a fast food brand, McDonald's will probably be one of the first things that you say, or at least kind of in your top 3. And this is because they're relentlessly reminding the public of its existence and continuously proving its relevance within the market. So as nice as it would be, I'm not suggesting that we've all got the same marketing budget as McDonald's, although can you imagine? But having an app can really help you establish your own brand, and it will consistently remind your clients of your existence and the benefits that you provide, and also kind of remind them of the amazing experiences that you've provided them with before. And this will help keep you relevant and ahead of any competition as well. We all know that repeat customers and referrals are the cheapest way of selling trips. So if you want to capitalize on this, then an app is a really, really good way of doing this. So not my strongest subject, but I've done a little bit of maths for you all here. So a 2018 Ofcom report has shown that Brits are checking their phone on average every 12 minutes. So if we are suggesting that these people are getting their recommended 8 hours of sleep a night, they're checking their phone up to 80 times a day. So that's 80 times a day that you can be taking advantage of and capitalizing on just by being a branded app on their mobile phone home screen. We've also had a little look at our app data here, and based on that data, for one trip, clients on average will look at their app about 50 times. 56% of this is before the trip even begins, so showing that people are using it to get really excited about their holiday, probably sharing it with friends and family as well. And because of that, your brand is being exposed to an even wider net of people, which essentially means you're getting some pretty awesome free marketing, which is never a bad thing, I don't think. It's also a really great way of communicating with your clients in a unique and exclusive way. So we all receive hundreds of emails and messages and WhatsApps and social media notifications every single day. And using an app with its own notification or messaging system is actually a really great way of cutting through all of this noise. So if you want to launch new holidays, or you just want to remind them that you're there, then this is a really great way of doing it. So those are just some of the ways that you can use an app to stay front of mind with your clients. On to consideration number 4, word of mouth. So how can you get your clients to kind of show their trip and their experience with you and not just tell people about it? Unless they're buying like a car or a house, I would say a holiday is probably the most emotional and rewarding purchase of the year. So it's a thing that we all look forward to in a normal year, I must admit, but it's what we all look forward to and enjoy discussing with people, probably more than a lot of other things. When trips are created by travel specialists such as yourselves, holiday makers will always want to shout about their trips, but unfortunately it's not very likely that they're going to be carrying around these really beautiful kind of A4 or A5 travel booklets that you've sent them in the mail. And it's probably not very likely as well that they're going to be going through their emails and clicking on each of the links of where they're going to stay, etc., etc. They really want to be able to show off their trip instead of just explain it to someone. And they want to be able to display all the exciting adventures that they're going on. But at the moment, we just don't feel like some companies have the tools in which clients can use for that. So as I mentioned, clients would not only use the app to show off their holiday before they go, but similarly afterwards. And again, in normal times, we probably have all been there where we come back from a holiday and you're really excited and enthusiastic about telling your colleagues about it. But by the end of the day, you're probably sick of talking about it. You don't ever want to kind of mention it again. But having all of that information on a device is really handy. You can literally just pass around your holiday, and that will include photos that you've taken there, places you've been, places you've eaten, and people will almost feel like they're there themselves. And if this is the kind of experience that you want your clients to have, then an app is a really fantastic way of doing it. And more often than not with your clients, they will probably have the app on their phone, which more than likely they'll have on their person at all time anyway. There are loads of other benefits of having a really visually engaging app. So here are just some other examples. So number one, having your brand there on the home screen at all times is really good. It's, you know, it's promoting your brand, and it's not an in your face kind of way. You're not having to spend any money on Facebook ads or anything like that. If your clients are sharing it with other people, your brand is going to be there. It's going to be very subtle but very effective, and it's probably going to stay with the people that are looking at the app. It means you can showcase the things or the places you're sending your clients to really easily. So for example, if you work with an accommodation provider that people can't book themselves or can't book through another tour operator, then having these kind of really visual experience and showing where people can stay is really powerful. It can also show the activities that people are doing or the places that they're going to experience, using all the images and kind of the copy here as well in terms of like local points of interest or what they've already booked onto. So people can kind of experience this stuff a little bit before they go, just to get them really, really excited. And it massively helps with reselling as well. So you'll know when your clients have returned home from one trip. You can use the app to feed them information about other trips that they might find interesting. You know, if they've come back from a safari, they might want to go and do something slightly different, and you can push that information to them in a really visually engaging way and give them the kind of same immersive experience for their next possible holiday as well. Consideration number 5, so the IT ecosystem and APIs, and don't worry, I won't delve too much in the technology here, mostly because some of it goes over my head as well, but kind of really top level here. So as a company at Vamoos, we hear tour operators sometimes say that they're not really ready to implement new systems because the current ones that they have at the moment, like their CRM or their booking systems, aren't in a good place, or they're not working well enough for them. If this is where you are, I think this is a very valid point. And if you don't have a good CRM or booking system, then this should definitely be addressed first and foremost before you even think about getting an app. If these systems, however, are in place and if they're working well for you at the moment, then you are in a good position to consider getting an app. And for that, you do have 2 options. So you can either build your own app, or you can buy a pre-existing solution that's already been created. So just looking at those 2 different options in terms of kind of comparing them here. So if you're building your own app, you know which systems you're using as your CRM or booking systems, and you can build an app that works seamlessly with those. And it works exactly how your business operates, and it will all work really lovely for you. If, however, you want to use one of the apps that's already available, then there are a couple of things just to note here. So there are some companies who successfully use travel apps without any integration at all. You are limited here by some manual info entry, but it still gives really good functionality. This has worked really well, we've found, for kind of the smaller size tour operators, as there is that kind of manual element. There are a lot of travel apps that already have ready-built integrations as well with various ticketing or itinerary building systems. So when you're having a little shop around, if you do decide that using a pre-existing solution is the right way for you to go, bear that in mind. If they've not integrated with these systems before, it might be quite simple for them to do so. And then just another thing to bear in mind is that, you know, API integration is sometimes quite scary territory for travel companies who don't really do it or don't really know much about it. The reality is the cost of an API integration can be a few £100, but that can kind of go up. So it's worth doing your research around this. Consideration number 6, do you have the resources to maintain the app? So it's not cheap to build an app. I'm sure that's not news to any of you. But from people that we've spoken to before who have created their own app, they will tell you that the biggest challenge wasn't necessarily building it, but it's actually more keeping it up to date. We, as a company at Vamoos, so we release a major update probably on average about every quarter. Other providers might release a monthly update, or they might release one every 6 months. And I'm sure, again, a lot of you will experience that notifications. It seems like you've got things to update every single day. And that is because technology is a really fast moving industry. And you need to ask yourself if you can keep up with that. Even with really high quality coding, you will encounter general bugs. And these will need updating, and that can be quite frequent. And as clients use your app more and more and push the technology, you could keep finding these bugs even months after the initial release. We, for example, our Vamoos app is, it's built for tour operators, but we've started using it, as I showed you, with ATTA for more conferences and events and stuff. And that means the technology is being used in a way that it wasn't built for. So we're finding, little quirks here and there because people are using it in ways that we didn't plan for that to happen. Third thing to consider here is that Apple are continuously changing their iOS policies, which means more technical updates, exciting stuff. So you need to have the knowledge and understanding of, number one, what all of this means, and number two, what you need to do having your own app to make sure that you are fully compliant with it. And then the fourth thing to note here is that you have two different systems. You've got iOS and you've got Android. Unfortunately, it's not just a one app build fits all here. They work in different ways. They've got different UX and layouts and whatnot. So you're not just developing for one system. And this is why testing is really important as well. So you've got multiple devices which you need to test on. So Vamoos, for example, we've not only got an app, but we've also got a desktop version. And we need people who are looking at their trip on their laptop to have the same experience when they go onto their tablet to show their relative, to have the same experience when they go onto their app as well. So think about what your company is equipped to deal with internally, and that will give you a good indication into whether or not you should build or buy your own app. And moving on to the final consideration here is all about flexibility and how committed you are. So we all want bespoke, customized solutions. However, this does come at a cost. The amount of time and cost required grows proportionately with the level of customization that's needed. So what's important to understand is kind of where you draw the line on how much customization is needed for your business and for your clients. Building your own app requires a lot of investment, but if you change your mind, it's really not easy to change the direction and accept the loss of financial, human, and time resources. But if you do decide to build your own app, I can give you a rough idea of what the costs might look like, and hold on to your seats. So a basic version of an app is, can cost around 50K. And these, I must say, these do vary, but this is just kind of some really average type costs. For anything that's more than just basic functionality, that could increase to around £200,000, and you're looking at a lot of money basically if you want all the bells and whistles, and the sky is the limit. So it's certainly not a cheap exercise. As I've mentioned, there are software that's already available out there. So if you wanted to explore this more, and I know I've shown you a lot of Vamoos examples, obviously, because that's what I've got very easy access to, but here are some other things that companies that provide quite a similar service. So you really need to think about what kind of functionality is best for you and your clients. So if you're looking at kind of your existing options of software that's already out there, or just getting an app in general, then there are some things that I would suggest you kind of have clear in your mind in order to make a really informed decision. So look again at your customer and understand their needs, look at how they behave, and decide whether or not you think an app would work well for them and their trip. Have a look about how an app can help you with your personalization and brand building as well. Figure out if that's important to you. If so, then an app is a really powerful way of doing this. And decide what kind of functionality is key to you and your business, and figure out, how much this would cost and what you're willing to negotiate on in terms of functionality. And what I would really recommend is maybe doing a few demos. So seeing what's out there. There are plenty of comparison articles as well, so you'll be able to see what kind of functionality each provides and what might be best suited to you. So go out there and try it. Most of them do free trials. You can have multiple of those going at the same time. You can share this with friends and families, maybe do a trip that someone that is planning to go on maybe next year. Ask them to use it and get their feedback from it as well, and just really see how it all works. There are also some available tools out there. So we, for example, have a ROI calculator on our website, and the link is in this recording. And I can share this with you after as well, but basically based on the number of passengers you send away per year and your average booking value, you can figure out what your ROI would look like. And then another thing to note as well with software providers, that they have monthly or annually subscriptions. So going back to kind of the flexibility side of things, the worst that can happen if you use a pre-existing solution is that you're maybe tied into a one-year contract. Therefore, you're not wasting too much money or too much time on a system that doesn't really work that well for you. So have a little look at what your options are there as well. So that is everything from me. I think we're nearly at time anyway. I did want to just point out that we usually do kind of a 14-day trial, but in terms of considering the kind of current situation, we're now offering a 3-month trial. So you can sign up anytime you want. You'll also have complete access to our team who will help you through the trial, give you any support. They're there to answer any questions you need. You'll have all the training material as well. Otherwise, my email address is just millie@vamoos.com. That's Millie with a Y. Feel free to drop me an email with any questions that you have. I'd be more than happy to answer them. And that's it from me. So I think we've got a couple of minutes now. If there are any questions that have come through, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Millie, for the presentation. So we've got 3 questions. If anyone wants to ask a question, now is the right time. It's at the bottom of your screen. You will see a Q&A box. Please click on that instead of the chat. So the first question is, a lot of people download an app and either don't use it or delete it shortly afterwards. One of your slides indicated that most British people use a travel app 50 times per trip. Is this data from Vamoos, or do you have any data how long it stays on their phones?
That's a very good question, actually. I don't, off the top of my head, have any data for how long they keep it on their phones. That's something I can try and find out for you. What I will say is, though, we have when you have the Vamoos app downloaded, you have the ability to be logged into multiple different trips. So even if you come back from one and you book your next one, if you've then got a Vamoos itinerary for that as well, you'll be able to kind of toggle between your 2 trips. And we've got clients who have got, you know, multiple different trips on their Vamoos app. So that's a very roundabout way of saying I don't have the answer to that. It's something I can try and find out. But we certainly know that from the time someone has booked a trip and they get their login details to the app to after they return home, that they use that app quite frequently.
Great, thank you for answering that. Another question is, how long does it take to create an app for a small company on average?
So it does really vary here. Again, it completely depends on how personalized and how bespoke you want that itinerary to be. If you don't want it, you know, it hasn't got too much information in, when you first start using any of these systems, really, like any kind of technology, it will probably take a while to get to grips with. But realistically, you can do it quite quickly. You know, it could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes per itinerary. Get it down to that kind of speed. Obviously, if you're putting a lot more information into it, you're creating a lot of content that you haven't already got, then it can take quite a bit longer than that. So it completely varies.
Thank you for this. How time consuming is it to build an app for each client?
Similar answer there, really. So again, it completely varies. If, for example, you've got a trip which you send quite a few clients to, there might be some variations in terms of the activities that they've booked onto, or maybe they're staying in slightly different places. But with Vamoos, certainly you can kind of clone an app or an itinerary, as we call it, and then just make tweaks from there. So really, once you've kind of got a basis of one, it's very, very quick to be able to just clone that, make your edits, and you've completed it there.
Okay, thank you for this. And can Vamoos import data from systems like Veto?
Like Veto?
Veto, sorry.
I believe we do have an integration. I think it is with Veto. Again, I will double check that for you and send that out afterwards. But I do believe we can, yes.
Okay, thank you. As well as our logo on the home screen, can we brand the app with our own colors and fonts to tie in with our website and other marketing materials?
Yeah, definitely. So there are actually two options with the Vamoos app. So if you just subscribe to the app in general, it will be the Vamoos app on the home screen, and once your client has logged into it, then that's where your logo would be. Unfortunately, there's no kind of change with the colors or anything within the app, but we do also offer a white label or custom app. So that means if your company name is Amazing Safaris, you would have an Amazing Safaris app which works the same way as Vamoos, but it's all completely branded with your colors, with your logos throughout the whole journey.
Wonderful. Thank you, Millie. For everyone who joined in late the webinar, please note that you will receive a recorded version of this via email. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact myself or to write to Millie directly. Millie, can you repeat for us the last time your email address, please?
Of course, it's just Millie, MILLY, @vamoos.com.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you very much, Millie, for this great presentation.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.